Welcome to another episode of HumiliTea. My name is Paulina Tenner, I'm a founder of GrantTree, and today I'm talking to James Routledge from Sanctus about whether success equals happiness. James, so I've heard your story quite a few times, and I'm sure you've told it many times, about how you used to conform to what is perceived as a standard for a successful startup founder, and how that identity got that then dismantled.
Yeah.
Can you tell me more, like what changed?
Yeah. So as you just touched on, my journey was that I went to university, never really knew what I wanted to do. Kind of just saw university as a playground and thought I'll try lots of different things.
Yeah.
And stumbled into the world of startups.
Yeah.
Had an idea for a business along with my co-founder George, and very much saw the startup industry and ecosystem as kind of like a pot of gold at the end of the rainbow. I thought, not just from a wealth perspective, but from freedom and the ability to do something you love and create your own culture and work-life balance. Once I got into that startup world, because I didn't know myself that well at all, really, didn't really have a sense of who I was, my identity, what I valued, what I didn't value. I kind of looked outside to try and define who I was and what my role would be within my business. So I kind of, I would follow all of the Silicon Valley entrepreneurs on Twitter and LinkedIn and read all of the business books and gobble anything up that I could find on Medium or Twitter or, anything that Ben Horowitz would write or Mark Andreessen, all of these kind of like people with demigod kind of status. And I would just try and be like them.
And obviously you followed what they wrote, what they put out there, as opposed to who they really were.
Yeah, and I just tried to be like them. There was this archetype of a founder / CEO that I tried to be. Kind of a hustler, shows no emotion, always on, always performing, always driven, putting other people first all of the time. Always asking the question, how are you? Never really taking time for myself. That was what I perceived as a strong leader, and that's what I tried to be and to do. And I never really took time to ask myself the question, am I being...
What you care about?
Yeah, am I being me? Like, is this me? And how do I want to be a leader? How do I want to be in this world? I just kind of... just conformed, like you said before. I think that's a great word to use. I just conformed to what was the kind of the right social norm, and never showed any vulnerability. Never really opened up. Never really slowed down. Just kept myself on, doing. Work hard, play hard, sleep faster. Move fast
or not at all.
Move fast and break things. All of these startup mantras that we hear, I kind of worshipped in a way, really.
And if I remember, it was actually after you guys have raised a round, and it seems that you are kind of well along the trajectory of what a successful startup is supposed to be. And I remember you telling me that you sat with your co-founders and you realized that all of you actually hated what you were doing. Tell me how that happened, because that's a fascinating moment.
Yeah, I mean, so we'd been doing it for about 3.5 years, and because we started the business mainly out of kind of curiosity / boredom is the truth. It was like, I'm at uni, I don't really know what I want to do. This startup thing seems cool. The whole like ecosystem, it was 2012, so the whole London ecosystem was really kind of just getting started. SEIS as an investment thing was just kicking off, so there's lots of money being poured into the ecosystem. Raising money had become a lot easier. So you could, the barriers to entry for starting a business had become really low. And the term entrepreneur is like a jokey one now. People who just want to be entrepreneurs. I was probably one of them. Oh, I'll have a go at this. So that I never had a real connection, deep personal connection to my work.
Yeah.
Really, other than I want to do something different.
Yeah.
That was the only real link I had to my startup, to my project, to my product. Other than that, there was no real substance. The business we started, it was a social network for sport. It never had any real meaning or deep purpose to it. It was just like, I kind of want to do this thing because it'll be cool and it'll be fun and it'll make me feel important and different, right?
Yeah.
So from the start, really, we were lacking a mission and a vision and a North Star. So when we entered this startup world where you go and you go and pitch to the VC, or you try and get the advisor on board, or you try and win your first customers. It's always listen and take feedback and do customer development and read the mom test and all this sort of stuff. We just went round and round in circles because we just listened to what everyone else had to say. So if someone someone older and more mature said, oh, why don't you try this? We would just scuttle along and do it. So we ended up, after 3.5 years, we'd raised £600,000 in investment, and we actually ended up with a product that looked entirely different to what we started. We were serving millions of online ads every month. We were working with all these different publishers.
So on the face of it, it kind of looked like, maybe not demigods, but kind of on the way there.
Not really. I don't know if I would say that, but on the face of it, you might say that, we had traction.
Yeah, and you had money or traction.
Yeah, we'd raised investment. We had a nice, cool office. We had, relative scale.
Yeah.
We could say numbers like we're reaching 10 million people a month, let's say.
Decent.
Complete vanity metrics, though. It was all sugarcoating.
Yeah, the L-shaped curve.
Underneath that, we had no business model. We were solving no problem. There was no core mission, core purpose, what we wanted to achieve in the world. So all these vanity metrics were sugarcoating what was a broken business, basically.
So what happened, because you were saying that you were kind of working hard, playing hard, sleeping little. At what point, and what happened for you to kind of let that inner voice actually speak, and for you to kind of get in touch with yourself enough to realize, hang on a second, this is bullshit.
I never listened to that voice.
Yeah. Ever.
So for a long, long time, I just pushed that voice down and down and down and down and ignored it and bottled up all my feelings and opening up and being honest about how I felt.
Yeah.
And the truth was, I was scared.
Oh, for sure.
I was out of my depth. I'd left all my mates behind at university. I felt alone. I felt isolated. I think deep down, I knew what was really wrong. I knew that it was rotten at its core. I knew that the business would never succeed. So that was the real deep fear that I knew. But
then again, you didn't know yourself enough to know, okay, what else would I care about?
I didn't know how to listen to that. And I didn't trust myself. And I didn't.
So what happened? And what happened for you to be able to communicate with your co-founders as well?
Well,
that was a massive step.
In fairness to George, who me and George started the business, me and George were best mates essentially before being co-founders. We were best friends at university, and we really got on, just as mates. He left 6 months before we shut the business down.
Right.
And he was like, it's not right. I just can't see it. I'm not bought into it. Everything that I was feeling, he said, and that was really difficult.
So do you think that helped awaken your
inner
voice?
Even then, I was still like, I'm going to keep going. I'm going to persevere. I'm going to push on. I'm going to fight, because that was everything that I believed was true about starting
the startup
a business.
mantra, like
you
keep
just
going no matter what.
You keep going no matter what, and you never give up, and you'll work it out. That's what I would always say to the team. We're going to figure it out, whatever it was.
Whatever it is, yeah.
Yeah, and I've heard so many stories, and there are so many stories of people that have done that. They spent 5 years building products that no one wanted, and then overnight they did some pivot, and suddenly they found this new problem, and it scaled rapidly. Airbnb sold cereal to make money, and then they did Airbnb. All these stories. So I was kind of chasing that. So George left, and that was really difficult. But if anything, it kind of relit my fire a little bit to keep going. with one of my other co-founders and two of the team. And then we had 6 months of really going at it hard and really hustling hard, really
so like burning the candle at both
really
ends
working hard, really trying to make it work. And in a way, I must admit, it was quite fun. You know, it felt kind of do or die. It was quite fun. There's lots of camaraderie between us four at that
because
point.
this survival kind of bonds you, gives you a sense of purpose. Sometimes when there's no other purpose.
So that felt quite fun. But what if I look back and I reflect now, what was fun was us four. Was us four trying to make it work. The camaraderie of, you know,
and the support, right?
Yeah, exactly. But when I look back, we didn't make massive progress from a business perspective. And have a friend who he runs a business called Trey, Rich Waldron, and they're a great example of a company that have persevered. You know, they spent years building different products that never quite took off, and then they landed into this integration software space, and then they've just raised $37 million, right? So he's always been a kind of a friend of mine, and was an example of someone who's persevered and is now doing really, really well and well deserved. And he said to me, he was like, look, mate, he's like, you don't have a product, you don't really have a business right now. Like, you still just got you four, and you've got money in the bank, and you can do whatever you want. Like, you can change your product if you want. So he was like, why don't you just go away together, you know, stay off your laptops, just spend some time together, and just like talk about what you want to do and whether this is right and what you would work on. So we did that for the first time. We went away, spent the week. I think we spent the weekend together, or took a few days off. And didn't really go on laptops much. Didn't do much work. Just like went out, had a few drinks together, spent some quality time. And for me, that was probably the first time I just started to ask myself the bigger questions of just like, what do I want to do with my life? Like, is what I'm doing right now right for me? And the more I asked myself that question, the more the answer was no. I just, you know, the industry we'd ended up in was the ad tech industry, advertising industry. And I just morally, ethically, everything about that industry and the product it just didn't feel right. It just didn't feel aligned. We were just serving more ads that were just making people's online experience worse. So I was just like, what the fuck am I doing? Like,
so how did you first, because I'm just thinking about those of the viewers that might be kind of facing that transition, how did you like first allow for that voice to emerge, and second, like, give yourself permission to actually at some point express it and say, I think I know myself better and this is not me?
I had to stop first.
Okay.
That was the first.
Right.
I had to actually stop. I'd never stopped. Never.
So you just cut yourself out of the business, or what happened?
Well, I'm even going to Brighton and taking that weekend away.
It was a big deal, right?
That was the big deal for me. Just not do much work. Probably still did a bit. But in the years before then, all the way from university to that point, I'd just been on. Even the weekends, it was full. It was going out with my mates, partying, drinking, filling my time. Holidays weren't holidays. They were like going away, partying, on all the time. So I never just stopped and just slowed down. So I allowed myself to slow down first, you know, bodily, everything. And I think then it just started to come up. And actually, to be honest, then at that point, I spoke to a few people who I really respected and I really liked and I looked up to, not just from a business perspective, but from like
what they represented,
like a life. Do I look up to them as a person? Like another one of, I remember another one of those people was a guy called Mills, who's the founder of a company called Us Too.
Yes. Of course,
and I just really like, I look up to Mills, not just from the business they've created, but like who he is as a person. So I remember, he won't even remember it, but I remember it being a big deal for me to reach out to him and be like, I'm thinking about shutting this business down. What do you think? And he just smiled and was like, well, what do you think?
Oh,
and I was like, well, I think it's the right thing. And there was a few people like that who I looked up to. I had that conversation with. So it must have been a big
deal to actually say it, even though it wasn't somebody in your business, to actually reach out to someone and even say those words.
Like, and for them, I think what struck me was like how people weren't that bothered in like a really nice way. Like I was way more bothered.
Yes. Yeah.
Like it meant
It seems
so
like an
much
end of
to
the
me.
world, right?
Yeah. Oh, it was the end of the world to me.
Yeah.
But to everyone else, like it's just like
another day
like,
in
okay,
the startup life.
Like
yeah.
okay, you're 24. Like
you're gonna be fine.
You're gonna be fine. And now I look back, I'm like, well, God, of course I'm gonna be fine. Yeah. So that was a big deal. And then to be honest, I just moved quite quickly from that point. Like I knew it was, my mind was made up. I was like, I'm shutting down this business. This isn't right. Spoke to my other co-founder, Nabil. He felt exactly the same. Yeah, and it just moved quite quickly from that point, to be honest. I must admit though, whilst I'd made what was quite a life-altering decision at that point, I don't think I changed that much then. I was still on. Like I didn't let myself grieve, for example.
Yes.
Like I was gutted that I was shutting down this business.
Yeah.
I was heartbroken.
Yeah.
It was like.
But you probably didn't know. You've never grieved before, right?
No, it was completely shattered my identity. So, for the last 4 years, I'd been James, the guy who started a business and dropped out of university and was this young go-getter. And then suddenly I was a nobody, like a nothing. So, and all of my identity was wrapped up in work.
Yeah.
And the other bit was going out and, with my mates, and I still had that, but I had nothing else.
Yeah.
So I had this massive hole in who I was.
Yeah.
And I ran away from that. So even though I slowed down and made the decision to shut down the business, I didn't continue to slow down to, be upset or to feel sad or to open up to my friends or my family and say, oh, I'm really disappointed, or I'm really upset, or I feel like I failed, because that's how I felt. But I never accepted any of that. I never admitted any of that in the first instance. I just ran away.
So do you think, looking at it right now, that it was a blessing in disguise, that moment of breaking up, because that's where we need to go for something else to be born?
Yeah.
Because otherwise you would have kept going, right?
I would have done. Yeah. I mean, I was the mask at that point, or my ego, or however you talk about it, was beginning to crumble at that point. It was beginning to break down, and I was beginning to chip away at kind of who I thought I was.
Yeah.
And step into a new version, really, in a way.
But then between who you thought, I kind of have that experience also, and right now I'm going through a bit of that process. I think there's a gap between like, this is the old me, this is the new me, and there's the gap where there's nothing.
No, it's nothingness.
And like, you just trust that something will emerge, but you just don't know in that moment.
And
right?
I didn't know I was going through that, but that's what I was going through. I was going through an identity crisis, essentially, an identity change. And I didn't know, I wasn't aware of it, but it was certainly happening. And I tried quite quickly to put on another mask.
Of course.
I got
just like jumping from one relationship to another.
Exactly. I got into this other job. I was working with an angel investor, investing into startups. So I quickly tried to put on this new mask of being this investor.
How did it feel?
Right. And I just tried to put it on, but it didn't fit. Like, it didn't fit. I tried to wear it, and I couldn't get into it fully.
Yes.
So it wasn't right. And that's when I felt, from my mental health, that's when I felt my worst. Because really,
there was like
I was nothing, actually. That's what I was really feeling. Empty, lost, uncertain, afraid, like a nobody, like shit, to be honest. Like, I felt awful. I had all this anxiety that I just pushed down for so long, that was just coming up, and I could feel it in my body, knot in the stomach, sweaty palms, dry mouth, my hands just constantly sweating, not sleeping very well, panic attacks eventually. But I was avoiding all of that because I was still trying to put up this new facade.
And how did you give yourself permission? And for people who have never given themselves permission to actually stay with that awful feeling of not knowing who you are at all, what would you say to people? And how did you eventually give yourself permission to stay with that?
Like I said at the time, I knew nothing about mental health. I knew nothing about feelings. Is the truth. Like I'd never truly felt before. Like I've never been, it'd never been role modeled to me. It'd never been kind of on the table, you know, coming out of university and growing up, and then in the startup world, opening up and being vulnerable and feeling the more difficult emotions.
Very shameful, right?
Yeah, it's just not
What
on
you
the
show.
table. Like
Yeah.
it's not, who do I see as a role model that's doing it that I can look to and think like, oh, I'll try and be more like that or whatever. So it just wasn't really there. So it was all so new for me. So at the first I felt lots of shame about some of the ways I'd been or the mistakes I'd made. I felt lots of regret about certain things in the business and stuff like that. But I felt ashamed for even feeling the way I was feeling.
Yeah,
right?
of course.
So I was being hard on myself.
Because that's another thing that we often feel, and I know from my own experience, something difficult rises up, like anger or hurt or something from way back sometimes in your childhood. And first reaction is, I screwed up. So not only do we have those difficult feelings, but we judge ourselves for feeling something difficult. And I have, like, even these days, after all the work I've done, something difficult arises and I've got this panicky, like, oh, what have you done this time? Or maybe you haven't exercised enough, or you haven't done this, or haven't done that. So, like, going back to your story, you were working with this angel investor, trying to put this mask on, trying to make it fit.
Yeah.
What happened for you to finally kind of give yourself permission to stop and just feel what was there?
I think the truth is, to be honest, I didn't really have a choice. I felt that bad that I kind of had to, is the truth. Especially when I started to have panic attacks. Yeah. They were so vicious and intense that even, no matter how stoic and stubborn that I may have been, I just couldn't ignore them. They really hurt, is the truth. Like, they were really painful and scary. Yeah. And they were so bodily that I thought there was something wrong with me on a physical level.
Can you describe how it was, just for people who may be feeling similar symptoms, but they don't even recognize that this is something really look into?
I mean, in my experience, for me, a bad panic attack literally felt like I was going to die. Yeah. Like, it's like this surge of emotion and anxiety and energy that kind of feels like it comes from the gut and it goes up through the heart, through the lungs, throat, and kind of out through the mouth. And it's kind of, my heart pounding, feeling out of breath, this kind of surge of almost like electricity in my fingers. And just sheer, like, terror. Pure terror, pure panic. And they were so, I only had like 3 or 4.
But that was enough.
But that was just enough to be like, okay, like, this is serious now. This felt, I'm scared here. Like, this isn't just a bit of stress, or this is something a bit more real. Yeah. And I still didn't know what, to be honest. And I still certainly wasn't thinking this is anything to do with me. I was still very much thinking it's something external. It's because I've drank too much coffee, or I've not been going to the gym much. And if anything, I probably would have quite liked it to be something medical, because it would have been easy,
giving you an explanation,
easy to rationalize, right? And I suppose it just slowly started. So I had to think about it then, because I couldn't avoid it. The first, I think initially, and we've just touched on it, I had to give myself permission to feel it first. I had to let myself be okay with feeling the way I was feeling.
Do you remember how you arrived at that?
The big thing there was journaling for me. Like, it'd been really specific. It was journaling, because keeping a journal was something I'd never really done before, and I just picked it up kind of organically, naturally, without really thinking too much of it. And I started to write kind of semi-regularly, probably once a fortnight. And I would just talk about my day, how I was feeling, and I just stopped judging myself, I think, for feeling the way I was feeling. I started writing. I feel stressed. I feel anxious. I had a panic attack today. Mm-hmm. Something's not right. Yeah. I started, and I did try and ask why, and I was, I wonder if it's because of this, or it happens when this happens. So I started a bit of self-analysis, I suppose. But I gave myself permission to feel. because actually for a long time it was me that wasn't giving myself permission to feel the way I was feeling.
Yeah.
Like, we talk loads about this stigma around mental health and opening up, but actually I had a really supportive boss. I worked in a great working environment. You know, actually, if I'd have said to my boss, I feel he would have. I don't think he would have known exactly how to deal with it, but he would have been really supportive.
Yeah.
So it was actually me that was stopping myself opening up to people. I've got an amazing mum and dad.
Yeah.
Like, they wouldn't have judged me
Yeah.
for how I was feeling. They would have been so supportive and loving
Yeah,
and caring. It was me that never opened up to them.
Yeah.
So it was me that had to give myself that permission first. And journaling was a big part of that. I think also starting to just open up and talk about things to people close to me also was a big step. I think noticing, like I said before, in a kind of funny and perverted way, like people not caring that much, like it not being such a big deal for them.
Yeah, because for us, we experience it as the end, like the universe.
It was, and I felt like I was the only person in the world that was feeling the way I was feeling. You know, I remember speaking to my housemate and saying, "Oh, mate, I had this panic attack today," and he just kind of said, over a cup of tea, actually, and he just said, "Oh, it sounds like you're really stressed, mate." And I was like, it was just such a banal conversation. And I was like, oh yeah, I probably am like really stressed.
Yeah.
And that was actually a really powerful moment for me.
Yeah. That you can actually say that to someone, and they're not going to throw you out of the house.
I am allowed to be stressed.
Yeah.
James, this normal 25-year-old guy who's just started a business and has shut it down, is allowed to be stressed. That is okay.
Yeah.
And I don't think I'd ever allowed myself to feel any emotion, like not anything, but I'd not really allowed myself to feel, you know, these parts of myself or these emotions that are slightly more distasteful or are slightly more difficult.
Yeah.
I didn't think it was allowed.
And from there, from giving yourself that permission, where did your journey lead you to actually start feeling and understanding who you are? Because right now you just are a fundamentally different person, and just living and breathing what you believe in. So how was that journey for you to actually understand, oh, I actually care about this, not that?
I mean, I went on a pretty intense, you know, I've had a pretty intense 3.5 years now of what I would class as working on my mental health. Whatever you want to call it, self-discovery, opening up, self-exploration, all these 1,000,001 different ways to say the same thing, but that's what happened kind of from that point, really.
Yes.
Started with the journaling, you know, a little bit of meditation to kind of start to feel things, to notice, like, I've got a body, I feel things in my body, like, oh my God, what's that thing in my left leg? You know, what are these thoughts that are whizzing around my head? Just starting to notice things that I just never noticed before. So I started to develop this awareness. Obviously, I started a business around mental health in that time, and I started to, I'm the first user of any product that Sanctus created. Like, any product that Sanctus created is a business which has a mission to inspire people to work on their mental health. James is the first person that wants to use it, right?
And how did you know? Because that's a really interesting point for me. How did you know that starting something new was this time not an escape, but it was an expression of who you truly are?
Because it was so organic. I felt so pulled into, I felt called to it.
Yeah.
Like, I felt dragged into it. Like, I had no choice.
Yeah.
It was like this thing was saying, you have to do this.
Yeah.
And you don't have a choice, in a really fulfilling and exciting way. And also, I was really exploring new parts of myself by doing this business. So, you know, as a quick like anecdote, when I did my first business, never classed myself as creative at all. Yeah. Right? I would actively say I am not creative. Yeah. I'm the business guy. Right? I'm the business guy. That's me. I'm not creative. I'm the business guy. I'm numbers. I'm logic. I'm rational.
Hustling.
I'm the hustler. I'm sales. I'm not creative at all. Other people can do that, right? Start to open up, start to write, start to journal, start to write publicly about my mental health. That was one of the biggest turning points and catalysts for me. Yes. Yeah. I wrote this blog post called Mental Health in Startups, where I shared my experience, and I found that writing as an outlet, both publicly and privately, was really powerful for me.
Yeah.
I started to really enjoy writing and the catharsis
Yeah.
of it, and a way again for me to kind of explore.
So it's something that chose you in a way, as
Yeah,
opposed to
I
you
think so.
going like, I'm going to build a network for sports.
And then
like,
suddenly I find myself staying late in the office thinking about brand and designing the Sanctus logo and drawing things. I haven't drawn things since I was like 6 years old. So I started to reconnect with like these parts of myself that I've just left dormant for years. Like I'm talking 20 years probably.
Yeah.
And I start to draw and to play. And, you know, suddenly I'm like getting into the psychology and the meaning and the symbolism of the design and the logo of Sanctus.
Yeah.
And suddenly I've created this great brand that people seem to tie into. So it's crazy really, because in starting the business, I was also exploring these new parts of myself as well. So yeah, it was all.
So would you say that this is what entrepreneurship really is? Actually a journey of like self-exploration and expansion in its truest.
For me, yes, it's expression.
Yeah.
Like I think, like for me, and I get goosebumps when I talk about it because I feel so alive when I talk about it. For me, starting a business, it makes me laugh so much that I used to say I'm not creative. Anyone who starts a business in my mind is he creative? It's art. Like, yes, there's numbers and there's finance and there's
unless it's
metrics.
like thinking I should be doing this, then it's not art.
Yeah, but I think when it said its purest form, it's art for me. Like I don't feel like a businessman. Yeah. I prefer to think about myself as like an artist.
So who are you now that you've remembered how it feels to be a 6-year-old and to draw and gotten into like symbolism and aside from all the hustling and the business skill that you have, like who are you now that you've reclaimed these parts? How does it feel maybe to be you?
Yeah, well, that was the big. I think when I started Sanctus really, and I started to work on my mental health, and you know, one of the first products Sanctus created, we've got this big vision to put the world's first mental health gym on the high street. Yes. One of the first products we created was a group space for people to work on their mental health. Yeah. So there's a therapist, a facilitator. They're like the personal trainer, they're the instructor, and you come and you work on your mental health, right? So the big question I was asking myself for my mental health at that point, you know, that time of my life was, who am I? Yes. Who am I now? Right? Like, what's my identity?
And in a way, that question never goes away, right?
No.
Who am I right now?
And I still find it a really, like, punchy question of, like, who are you? I find it like, whoa, it's such a big, big question. And I think, you know, and that's pretty much all, for me, that is mental health, really. Like everything kind of comes back to that question, for me anyway, at least, like, what parts of myself feel challenged in this situation, in a certain relationship, what parts of myself do I feel like I can bring or can't I bring at work? Can I be myself, or does my boss make me feel like I can't be myself? All, for me, that's the root of mental health.
What have you learned about yourself that you can actually say, yes, like these things, this is me, or this is what my heart.
Well, I remember one of the exercises we used to do in some of the groups was, I can remember once one of the Sanctus coaches getting people in the group to introduce themselves by saying, I am. Yeah. Right? And we had a rule that it was like you couldn't use work, because in London or just
I'm a lawyer. Yeah.
Yeah, it's so easy. That's the default one we have. I'm the founder of. I would still probably do that now. And I remember saying, like, hi, my name's James, and I'm a writer, and I love to read. Oh. Right? Yeah. And that's true. Yeah. I would class myself as a writer, and I love to read. I love to read fiction, as I was talking to you about before. Yeah. And now I say that, and that feels kind of easy to say that right now, just between us. I could probably say I'm a creative. That would feel cool, like I am. I feel like I'm a creative person. 3 years ago, to say those sentences made me feel so hot that I felt like I was burning up. Like it was so...
As a creative, who is that? You have no right to be in the world if you're a creative.
Yeah. It felt so exposing to share something so real. Yeah. You know, I might even say now I'm a romantic. right?
Bless you.
You know, I like that.
I love it.
But like,
I love it.
I couldn't say that before. And even that was pushing me a little bit just then.
Was it shame or?
I just think it's real. So I'm like, that is who I really am. So
But back then, was it shame or was it the misalignment of that with what the societal norm?
I think it was maybe a little bit. Maybe not. I don't know if shame is maybe a little bit of shame on certain parts, but I think just risk of like really being, you know, seen for like who I really, really am.
Yeah.
And that you know, that's scary. That someone's gonna like, you know, it opens you up to be judged or for people to not like you.
Yeah.
And I think for a long time I'd played it safe, like I'm the founder of this thing and that's me. And I'd never, you know, before I never really entertained getting into an intimate relationship. Like I kind of played it safe and kept myself safe. Like I protected
myself. So you didn't have
myself.
to be seen.
So I didn't have to open up and let someone see the real me.
Yeah.
So, you know, I started to just open up, explore myself. So I'm like, oh shit, I'm actually like a creative and I love creating things and I love starting things. Actually, I'm not operational. I don't do detail very well.
Yeah.
And actually who I thought I was, I got it so wrong.
Yeah.
And I started to realize that myself and then probably do the harder part of actually be that person. Because, you know, I could have a coaching session with a coach or go to therapy and, you know, have these grand revelations about who I am. But then the harder part was like actually integrating it and living it in the real world. And that's, like you said, that's just an ongoing.
Just because there was still that part of you that believed you should be something else.
Yeah, and just the dealing with the kind of repercussions, I suppose, of, you know, what does that mean for relationships, friendships, the way you are, like who you be, what you do, like the things you like, the clothes you wear. I think, you know, for me, as I started to really go into myself, I did transform in a way, and I changed so much that it made me question loads of things in my life. I probably dress differently now. It's only a small thing, but it's still quite a big thing to dress differently. I've refound my love of books. Yeah. So I read more fiction. Yeah. Again, it might not seem big, but it is. It's it's like a lifestyle change. Loads of other people change their diet. They stop drinking. Yeah. Huge lifestyle choices that have massive repercussions for who you spend your time with, what you're into, where you spend your money. Yeah. So as I went on this like journey of, again, self-development or self-exploration, the way I started to show up in the world changed a lot. You know, before I basically went from running a business that was on the whole startup, venture capital, raising money train. I then went into being a kind of helping someone invest, again, in the whole startup, venture capital, making money train. 6 months later, I was running a mental health business. It's like worlds apart. I almost couldn't recognize myself, to be honest. And I've had to do a lot of work on that. Of like,
And how do you, I wonder, you know, in the business that you're in right now, close to 20 people, how do you actually maintain that level of openness and rawness and authenticity? And how do you make sure that you don't inadvertently kind of step back into wearing a mask or keeping yourself safe? And what advice do you have for people who run businesses to be authentic?
I think it's so easy to slip back into patterns, and I actually think, to be honest, I did for a little bit actually. I think if the pattern for me is, I think I would probably class myself, it's the best word I can use to find, is I'm a bit of a workaholic, right? My work consumes me.
This is James, romantic workaholic, writer, reader.
My work consumes me. It's very easy for me to get consumed by my work, right? And that's exactly what happened in my first business. Work and
do you think at some point it becomes a coping mechanism of running away from yourself? Like it kind of...
it just, I don't know where it comes... Well, I've probably got some insights to where it comes from, but it happens, right? My professional identity
takes over.
Yeah. And if I look at last year, it happened again. than it happened with Sanctus.
Wow.
So just because it happened with a great business,
it doesn't mean that you're safe. Yeah.
Doesn't mean that I'm not repeating the same things again.
And how did you spot it?
In this time, it was probably through, again, bodily. I wasn't sleeping very well.
Yeah.
I noticed I was dreaming a lot about work, having quite a lot of anxiety dreams.
Yeah.
And just waking up and worrying about work a lot and worrying about Sanctus. I couldn't switch off.
Yeah.
I just could not switch off from thinking about Sanctus. Me and George went away to Portugal together. And George, to be fair, I think this is a great example of close friends who can be a mirror. Said to me, he was like, mate, all you can talk about right now is work. And he was like, I know that you got more about you than that.
Yeah.
And so that really was quite abrupt for me. I was like, wow. I'd not been to therapy until that point, and from then it happened really quickly. I just decided I'm going to go and see a therapist because I need to work out who I am without my work.
Yeah.
Basically, that was sat down, first session with my current therapist about 6 months ago. Towards the end of the session, he said, I'm wondering who you would be without your business. Yeah. And I just went, that's exactly why I'm here.
Yeah.
If you take Sanctus away from me, if I'm not wearing this Sanctus t-shirt right now, who am I? Can I be happy with myself if I'm not that? And that was the question for me. And I think that's personally, I think for anyone, not just entrepreneurial, but anyone that's like kind of ambitious or driven in a sense, personally, I think that's very, very important because I've actually noticed in the last 6 months, as I've become much more rounded and I've been doing, I've been pursuing other interests and passions and hobbies in my life, it's had a huge positive impact on my work. Yeah. And also, especially now, again, like you said, moving into about 20 people, we've got a large coaching team. If me as one of the leaders in the business who's got a lot of power and influence is completely consumed by my work, then
that kind of stands in opposition.
And it's standard then. Yeah. That becomes expected of other people who work for Sanctus. And I don't want that. I don't want that for me, and I don't want that for others. So especially as I've gone into a leadership position, whether I'm a manager or not, I'm still in a leadership position. I've become even more aware of like how I'm acting and behaving, basically, because it does have a really big impact on the culture of the organization you build.
And if I took away Sanctus today, who would you say you are? What would you do?
I mean, who
would you be?
Yeah, I think so. This year, I think, again, some things sound really, really small, but I've started to really get into like hiking and walking. Yeah. It sounds so small and trivial, and I must admit, even saying it, I'm almost like a little bit embarrassed. I'm like, that's not a thing. But I remember this year I went out for a walk on my own. Right, got the train out of London, an hour out on my own. Yeah, and I got this route. I had this map, and I went for this walk on my own, and it was quite big for me to do that. I was like, oh, this is new. Like, I actually was excited. I really enjoyed it. I was a bit scared. Again, reading lots more fiction, being really into books as like a hobby, as a passion. Yeah. So those two things have been big for me. Spending again more time with my friends. Yeah. Actually having a social life. Like I probably still not as much as I would like, but I for a long time in the last 3 years I kind of cut that out. Yeah. I said I didn't have time for it. I couldn't do it. So being a friend. I don't have my business, but I'm still a good mate. Yeah. I don't have my business, but I still love reading books. I still love going on walks. I've still got a fantastic girlfriend. I'm a good boyfriend. I can still be those people. So it's still a work in progress for me, though, to be honest. And I think it always will be.
I think it never finishes.
No, I don't think it does, because I think your identity is constantly challenged. What happens if in 5-10 years, I was fortunate enough to have a child? That's going to rock my world. That's going to completely change a huge new piece of my identity. So you're a father, or I lose someone in my life. Yeah. Or identity constantly challenged. The business is growing, So that challenges my identity, because I'm actually not needed as much in a way, or I'm needed in a different way.
Different capacity, yeah.
So
but
it's
in a
constant.
way, I'm starting to feel that kind of life serves us those events where we get too used to or too comfortable with a given identity, and then comes a crash.
Yeah.
Just for us to take time to actually feel into, well, who am I right now?
Yeah.
Like with this.
Yeah.
And to be able to kind of look at this old identity and maybe discard it, or maybe kind of integrate it into a new sense of self.
Yeah.
But I don't know about you, but I'm beginning to trust kind of the process of life and how it happens.
Yeah, I think for me, I've just started to see that as a constant. And I think also a big thing for me in my sort of process of working on myself and working on my mental health is, I think for a while I was trying to search for this kind of like perfect true form of self. I was trying to find this like, I think that's where the word authenticity for me has a darker side of like, how do I be authentic? Right? How do I find this perfect authenticity and this perfect makeup of James?
As if you could see all the parts of yourself.
So I'm going to be 10% into reading books. I'm going to be 20% an amazing, 30% an amazing boyfriend. I'm going to be 30% a founder of a great business. I'm going to be how can I make this perfect form of James? And I think I did search for that for a long time. And the more the more I've realized is, you know, who I am and myself as a concept, you know, capital S, is completely fluid and is a constant process in relation to my environment and who I'm around and my relationships.
Like continuous emergence of
absolutely. And to go with it day by day, moment by moment. And that's been quite a big kind of realization for me, I think, because actually when I look at it, me trying to find this perfect way of being is just another way to judge myself.
Or another way to create an identity and feel safe within the bounds of it.
I was doing it again. And that was I'm sure that will be a constant check.
So would you say that these days success and happiness are two completely different ideas to you? Or how do they meet? Do they meet at all?
Yeah.
And what is success?
Yeah, that's what I was just thinking. I think certainly before, and this is quite classic, but I do think I subscribe to it. For a long time, I do think I saw success as external factors, status, wealth, the way I looked, material possessions, which is quite classic, and I don't want to sound like a cliche when I say that, but I do think I genuinely thought that, to be honest. I had an image of what,
and I'm trying not to judge the parts of myself that still
exactly
things,
like I still like
We're driven by desires,
exactly. So, but I did definitely have an image of a successful James
that I wanted supposed to look like,
that I was always chasing for and I wanted to be, but I kind of never got there. It was kind of never ever enough. And you know, for me, like, I don't think I know exactly what success looks like for me. I feel way more successful than I ever have, because when me and George, my co-founder, always text each other, and I always say, well, he's got much more of this view than I have. I still do sometimes constantly search, and things are never ever enough, and that is always a part of me often. But you know, me and George will often say to each other, like, we've already won. We've already won. Like, you know, and I look at my life and I'm like, I've got everything I need. It's really beautiful. Like in abundance. Like, I've got an incredible girlfriend who I love. I've got a nice flat. I've got a roof over my head. I've got enough money to do most things I want. You know, there are still some stuff in my life that I would like, and I, you know, can't quite see how I would get some things financially yet. I've got an amazing business. I've got a job I love. When I look at it, I'm like, I'm winning, or I've already won. So, yeah, I don't know. Like, that's how I'm starting to see it. Like,
Yeah.
look at what I've got. And there are some things that I would still like, obviously.
Yeah.
And I wouldn't want to turn off that side of myself that is driven and pursues more.
Yeah.
Because that's what makes me great at what I do as well.
Yeah.
So, but in terms of being successful, I'm like, fuck it, like I am already in a way.
Yeah.
And I don't mean that in like an arrogant way of like, oh, I've done so much.
But it's your own inner standard.
But inner, exactly. And I think the difference for me now is I want to, at least, and this is still a desire, and I don't think I do this perfectly yet. I want to define my success through internal factors, not external factors, probably. That would be how I would define it. And then happiness, I don't know, like, I think the best thing for me is like, can I stay with it? You know, some days I'm happy, some days I'm sad.
And not being obsessed with that concept of like, oh, I'm supposed to be like this, because this is what happiness is.
A really good day for me, really, and it's nice to say this because I'm reminding myself of it, because I do feel like I really believe this, is, can I be with whatever's there?
I love it.
You know, that would be a better measure of happiness for me.
I love
like
it.
If I'm sad, like if someone if someone dies in my life, I don't want to have to kid myself that I'm really happy.
Yeah.
It would be better for me to really feel the pain and the grief of how that would be, for me, that's life. Like that's the richness and the realness of life. So I would whilst it would be horrendous and horrible, I would rather feel that. Or if we have an incredible day at Sanctus where we achieve something phenomenal, I would rather feel that joy and that like, yes, like, and celebrate that than think, oh no, it could have been better. It could have been this. So I think, ideally success would be defined by whatever my internal metrics of success are, and then, being happy. I'd rather than be happy, just like stay with it. Like, what's the
amazing?
Yeah, I think so. I mean, I'm sure that's a grand question of like a philosophy of life, but that would be a good day for me. Like in therapy, I was talking, I've been talking about like what would be a good day for me, just for me, for James. And the things I talked about was feeling my feet on the floor.
Yeah.
Noticing Sarah, my girlfriend, like really really seeing her, whether it's touch or whatever, and tasting my food. And like that would be a good day for me. And then whatever else happens would also make it a good day.
So let's have a little tea toast to that. So this is to staying with what is, because we have already won.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Cheers.
So much for joining me on my couch.
Pleasure.